Stuff I Learned Yesterday, episode 621, Finding Freedom Through Forgetting. Welcome to Stuff I Learned Yesterday. My name is Daryl Darnell. I think elephants love to swim because they always have their trunks. And I believe that if you aren't learning, you aren't living. What comes to mind first when you think about an elephant? Perhaps you think about the physical attributes related to their size or their trunks or their ears. Maybe you thought of a movie featuring elephants like Dumbo. Okay, what if I ask you to think of a saying or adage related to elephants? If you're like me, you thought of the saying, elephants never forget. Now that's an interesting phrase, isn't it? It's a phrase that seems to be based on observation, and modern science backs it up. Elephants do indeed have excellent memories. If you're like me, you think of this fact as a good thing. That is, if someone says to you that you have a memory like an elephant, you'd take it as a compliment. Well, today I'm going to flip that on its head, show how it can be a negative, and hopefully help you examine your own life to see if you have a memory like an elephant. Now, I've talked about marching band a few times since I brought back SILY, and the reason won't surprise any of you marching band families out there. The fact is, marching band is life. We got involved when our son Colby joined marching band as a high school freshman, and it changed all of our lives. During his time in the high school marching band, we went to every single parent or booster meeting, every single performance and contest, and every band banquet. We volunteered to feed the kids before contests and football games. We worked to build and manage props, and we even worked the concession stand to help raise money for the band. My wife even served on the band boosters board for one season. Being so closely connected to the band was an experience that changed my life. Simply put, I saw 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-old kids do things that I didn't know were possible. The level of musicianship and performance was awe-inspiring. I saw up close the hard work, dedication, and passion the kids brought to the program, and yet they were just normal, goofy, fun-loving teenagers. Each student was tasked with memorizing a piece of music around 8 minutes long and perform that music in unison with up to 200 other kids. All the while, they had to learn 8 minutes of choreography and perform that choreography while keeping in step with those 200 other kids. And frankly, my description doesn't do it justice. You've likely seen marching bands perform all of your life, and now you're not impressed by them. Or perhaps you've never been impressed by them. After all, marching band is just a bunch of non-athletic nerds walking around on a football field. Well, if that's your impression of marching band, I implore you to go spend a Saturday at a local marching band competition. If you watch with a perceptive eye, you'll discover you've grossly underestimated the skill, athleticism, and hard work on display with each student. My brother was a jock in high school, and a few years ago, his stepdaughter was part of her high school color guard program. And in case you're not aware, color guard is the group of students handling the flags or rifles during marching band performances. And after he'd seen what they do up close and understood all that goes into a performance, my brother called me one day to tell me how much newfound respect he had for band kids. He'd always thought bands didn't require much skill or athleticism, but he now realized that band requires a high level of each. Now, I don't blame my brother. After all, what he and I experienced in high school was much different. Our marching band consisted of about 30 kids my freshman year, up to about 50 my senior year. At halftime, they'd line up in one end zone, march out to the middle of the field, play their music, and then march off the field. There wasn't much movement from them while they were playing. And so when I first considered the differences between the marching band program at my son's high school and the marching band from my high school, I was blown away. I had no idea that performance at such a high level could be achieved by high school kids. So that got me thinking, what's the difference between the kids that I went to high school with and the kids that Colby went to high school with that made them able to achieve this? And after giving it some thought, I realized what it was. It was absolutely nothing. The kids I went to school with were capable of doing everything Colby's friends did, but I don't think any of us realized it. So why didn't our band do those things? Well, I'm not sure why our band didn't do those things. Perhaps we didn't have the funding for participating in marching band competitions. Perhaps there were no competitions for bands of our size in those days. Perhaps the band director didn't have the experience or other resources required to put together a choreographed marching band show. Knowing the resources of the school I attended, I'd bet that some or most of that is true. Of course, I have no way of knowing for sure. But having said that, our kids didn't even memorize their music. Each student read the music off of a small flip binder that was attached to their instrument. I always assumed this was due to the difficulty of memorizing the music required for a halftime performance. However, after seeing Colby's group memorize music week after week after week, I now realize that the kids I grew up with were capable of the same thing. So why didn't they memorize their music? Again, I can't be sure. I'm sure some of it comes back to resources. Colby's group were the first to arrive at school every day, practicing for hours before school started, and they also had evening practice once per week. I know other schools that have practices before and after school every day of the school week. There is a massive time commitment necessary to achieve what Colby's group did, and I don't know that my school had the resources or the budget to pay teachers for that time. But the fact remains, our kids were certainly capable of it. Had they been at a different school, I have no doubt they would have been able to perform at the same level as other kids. But when I was in high school, I didn't know such things could be achieved. Until I saw other kids doing it, I never realized I had this blind spot. And so this got me to thinking, what other blind spots do I have? Here's what I learned. I started this episode by asking you about elephants. And there's one other thing about elephants that's shocking and true. And that is, if you take a baby elephant and tie him up with a chain around his leg, he won't be strong enough to break free. Eventually, the elephant will stop trying. And as the elephant grows, it still believes that it's incapable of breaking free from the chain. Even if you tie it up with a simple rope, it will still believe that it doesn't possess the strength to break free. After all, an elephant never forgets, and it remembers the limitations of earlier days. The elephant believes it is incapable of breaking free, and therefore it doesn't even try. And because it doesn't try, it is indeed incapable of breaking free. It's been a while since I've talked about limiting beliefs, and I think I have us all primed to examine those again now. The last time I talked about them, I believe I mentioned 4, and this time I'm expanding that list to 12 in an effort to give more examples of how both known and unknown limiting beliefs can permeate our minds. Limiting beliefs are self-imposed restrictions that hinder personal growth and success. And so here are some common types. Number 1, self-doubt. Belief that you are not capable or competent enough to achieve certain goals. For example, I'm not smart enough to start my own business. Number 2, fear of failure. Fear that attempting something new will lead to failure and disappointment. Example, if I try and fail, I will be embarrassed. Number 3, fear of success. Belief that achieving success will bring negative consequences. For example, if I succeed, I'll lose my friends. Number 4, negative self-image. Belief that you are inherently flawed or unworthy. Example, I'm not attractive enough to find a partner. Number 5, scarcity mindset. Belief that resources are limited and not everyone can succeed. For example, there aren't enough opportunities for everyone. Number 6, perfectionism. Belief that if something isn't perfect, it's not worth doing. For example, if I can't do it perfectly, I shouldn't do it at all. Number 7, fixed mindset. Belief that abilities and intelligence are static and cannot be improved. Example, I'm just not good at math, and I never will be. Number 8, external locus of control. Belief that external factors, rather than your own actions, control your life. For example, I can't change my situation, it's just the way things are. Number 9, comparison to others. Belief that you aren't as good as others and therefore can't succeed. For example, others are more talented, so there's no point in trying. Number 10, assuming the worst. Belief that negative outcomes are inevitable. For example, no matter what I do, it will turn out badly. Number 11, overgeneralization, making broad negative assumptions based on limited experiences. For example, I failed once, so I'll always fail. And number 12, mind reading. Belief that you know what others think about you, and it's usually something negative. For example, they think I'm incompetent. These limiting beliefs can significantly impact all aspects of our lives, including career, relationships, and personal fulfillment. Identifying and challenging these beliefs is crucial for personal growth and achieving our full potential. Once we identify the presence of a limiting belief in our life, we can then work to remove it and overcome it, breaking free from the control that we've allowed it to have. It's sometimes incredibly hard to forget what we've been conditioned to believe by our own upbringing, our friend group, our work environment, our inner voice, our community culture, and other influences. Elephants aren't made to be held back by ropes, and neither are we. Let's see these ropes for what they are, break free from them, leave them behind, and in doing so, discover the wonderful things that we never thought were possible. I'm Daryl Darnell, and this has been Stuff I Learned Yesterday. Well, I want you to be a part of the next Monday mailbag, which is coming up at the end of the year on December 30th. That's your chance to share your stories with me that can benefit me and the other community. It's also your chance to respond to my episodes. Send those responses in and I'll respond to them via Monday mailbag episodes. You can send that in by emailing me at feedback@goldenspiralmedia.com or using the listener feedback page, which is goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback.